Hey folks, welcome back. Where have I been? Where have you been? This is a two-person endeavor, Buggo, okay? It takes two to tango. When in Rome. Or something. I'm floundering. Arthur, just put the Sonic the Hedgehog... Oh, damn it, I ruined the surprise. Sonic Hedgehog, known for run fast and eat chili dog. That's right, folks. We're continuing my journey to review every single Sonic game very slowly in no particular order. Yippee! No, I'm just kidding. I'm a big fan of Sonic. You all know this. Ever since I was a tiny little baby boy, I've been a Sonic guy. Although at the time I would have probably identified myself more as a Knuckles guy, but you know what I'm saying. What do I even say about Sonic at this point? He's Sega's mascot and one of the most popular and iconic video game characters of all time. But he's also one of the most controversial video game characters of all time. Now I know the word controversial might sound some alarm bells, but don't worry, Sonic didn't do anything racist or evade his taxes or anything. At least as far as I know, that is. When I call Sonic controversial, I mean in the sense that opinions on the little blue guy range all the way from manic admiration to the point that you might get the impression that people think he's actually a real person, to hatred so deep that you would think that Sonic personally killed some people's parents. Again, I cannot confirm 100% whether or not that's the case. The debate about whether or not Sonic is a good series has been going on since his inception, but things really went crazy when he transitioned from 2D into 3D. There are a lot of people who will take the position that Sonic works in 2D, but not in 3D. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that in the early to mid 2000s, Sega was just pumping out terrible, forgettable 3D Sonic games like Sonic and the Black Knight, Sonic and the Secret Rings, and of course, the holy grail of comedy Let's Play channels, Sonic 06. But a lot of people seem to forget that the first three 3D Sonic games were, and still are, regarded by many to be really good games, if a little bit poorly aged. I already talked about Sonic Adventure 2, so now I've decided to take on the one that everyone wants me to talk about. Sonic Heroes. That's the one you guys wanted me to talk about, right? Sonic Adventure 2 is one of my favorite video games growing up. So you'd think that I'd be all over Sonic Heroes, but strangely enough, I've never really played this game. I rented it once, but for some reason when I was a kid I had this weird habit of renting games and then not playing them. So basically I had a habit of wasting my parents' money. In fact, when it comes to Sonic Heroes, strangely enough, the piece of media that I'm probably most familiar with is that terrible Pakistani McDonald's commercial.
Soccer, Sonic Skateboard, Rogue and Emmy Dennis.
I guess you could say that I love
McDonald's के restaurant.
But anyway, got a little off topic there, but I mean, can you blame me? Have you seen that shit? But with that out of the way, let's get into it. Put on your soap shoes and get your chili dogs ready, because we're about to get into Sonic Heroes, Sonic Heroes, wasting away again at Margaritaville. The Blue Blur's third excursion into the crazy, wacky world of 3D video games, Sonic Heroes was released in 2004 on the GameCube, Xbox, PS2, and Windows, making it the first multi-platform Sonic game following Sega's discontinuation of the Dreamcast in 2001. It probably doesn't seem like a big deal now. I mean, Sonic's been multi-platform for over 2 decades now, and also video game companies don't really do the whole holding each other's CEOs hostage over a brand rivalry thing anymore. But back then, it was monumental. I think that contributed a lot to this game's success. This was the official confirmation that Sega was done making consoles. When you bought Sonic Heroes, you were buying a piece of history. You can never be too safe. Now, since this game is multi-platform, I usually like to do some research to see which version of the game is best. And based on many forums and Reddit threads, it seems like the general consensus is that the GameCube version is the way to go. Well, you know what that means. I'm gonna emulate it. That's what I was getting at. There's a GameCube emulator called Dolphin. It's perfectly reasonable if you didn't know that. Right off the bat, Sonic Heroes starts with an awesome pre-rendered 3D cutscene, and holy shit, fellas, this theme song rules just as hard as I remember it ruling as a kid.
What goes up must come down. Yet my feet don't touch the ground. See the world spinning upside down. A mighty crash without a sound.
So rather than choosing a character to play as, we're given a selection of 4 teams, each comprised of 3 classic Sonic characters. Team Sonic features, of course, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Team Dark is made up of Shadow, Rouge, and look, it's A3 Alpha. Team Rose features Amy Rose, Cream the Rabbit, and Big the Cat. And finally, the bottom of the barrel, Team Chaotix, comprised of Charmy the Bee, Vector the Crocodile, and the definite contender for the ugliest Sonic character of all time, Espio the Chameleon. So with that out of the way, let's hop in and see what kind of insane nonsense is going on here story-wise. Each campaign starts with an opening cutscene that sets the stage for the game. So let's see what our iconic cast of characters, as well as Custom Robo, Cream, and, well, the entirety of Team Chaotix, is up to. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles receive a magical, fully animated letter from Dr. Eggman warning of his development of the ultimate weapon, which he intends on using to destroy the world once and for all. So they decide to go stop him from doing that, obviously. That's kind of their shtick, isn't it? Meanwhile, Rouge the Bat infiltrates one of Eggman's bases where she awakens not only Tom Servo, but also the ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog, who has amnesia because of f***ing course he does. Shadow always has amnesia. The boys get into a fight before Rouge...
Hey, hold up!
At the risk of incurring the rage of Sonic fans, I'm going to take a stance here. I don't like Rouge. This game is rated E. I don't think I need to explain myself any further. Rouge convinces Shadow and Calculon to put their differences aside to focus on their shared enemy, Dr. Eggman, so they decide to join forces and kill his ass. Or, sorry, kill his butt, I guess. Meanwhile, Team Rose is hanging out on a beach somewhere discussing their ongoing search for Big's friend Froggy and Cream's friend Chocolate Chow. Well, Amy's mostly discussing her one and only personality trait, that being her unreciprocated love for Sonic. Oh, don't get mad at me. You're gonna sit there and you're gonna tell me that Amy is, like, empowering to women? Come on, man. Let's live in the real world here. Based on photo evidence, they believe that Sonic is in possession of their beloved little friend, so they embark on a journey to find his ass. Meanwhile, Team Chaotix, who I guess run a detective agency, receive a walkie-talkie in the mail, definitely not sent by Dr. Eggman, requesting their detective services and offering a big payday. He doesn't explain what he needs them to do or where he needs them to go, but, they're the detectives, not me. And if you haven't caught on yet, this entire thing is a ploy by Dr. Eggman to send all the teams on a wild goose chase to his base of operations. I guess you could say that he hatched a scheme. However, as the game goes along, we learn that Eggman's harebrained scheme was actually a harebrained scheme concocted by Metal Sonic pretending to be Eggman so that he could observe all 4 teams in action and use their abilities to become Neo Metal Sonic. It's fucking stupid. And that's the story in a nutshell. Leave it to Sonic to make me spend like 5 minutes explaining the most convoluted, nonsensical plot you've ever heard. Honestly though, the plot is pretty tame for a 3D Sonic game. Good guys joining forces to defeat the bad guy. I mean, the bar was set pretty high with Sonic Adventure 2 with its hostage situations and galactic terrorism. But enough about Charmy the Bee's motivation. Let's actually play this thing, huh? Like I said, you play as one of 4 trios of classic Sonic characters. Each trio has one of 3 types of characters. Sonic, Shadow, Amy, and Espio are speed characters. They run fast, spin dash, air dash, and they have a special ability called Rocket Excel, wherein the other 2 characters give them a boost of speed. Sonic and Shadow are pretty much the same, but Amy and Espio have some special abilities. For example, rather than the Psy-Loop that Sonic and Shadow use to stun enemies, which I just found out didn't debut in Sonic Frontiers, Amy has a tornado that goes in a straight line ahead of her, and Espio has a tornado that surrounds him. And it has a couple of cool features, like it turns you invisible, and, most awesome, because you have to do it right above enemies, you're pretty much guaranteed to fall into the enemy and take damage. So it's pretty sick. Knuckles, Robot, Big, and Vector are power characters. They can break boxes and obstacles and easily dispatch enemies. And finally, Tails, Rouge, Cream, and Charmy are fly characters. They can fly, Sonic Heroes sees you running, flying, and smashing through a total of 14 levels. Seaside Hill, an all-time classic. Grand Metropolis, I absolutely love the music in this level, but we'll get to that later. Casino Park, nothing like a casino level in a Sonic game. Rail Canyon is cool in concept. Frog Forest. Hang Castle is a big castle that you flip upside down throughout the level, and it's pretty cool. The music has a different variation for both orientations, and I love when games do that. A castle that flips upside down? What is this? Castlevania Symphony of the Night? Alright. There are keys hidden in each level. If you collect them and finish the stage without dying, you'll be transported to a bonus stage where you can either collect orbs to gain extra lives or chase down a Chaos Emerald. Each level has your classic Sonic characteristics. Speed segments with loop-de-loops, rails to grind on despite your lack of soap shoes, bumpers to boing on, enemies that are just a blast to air dash into, and so on. But there are also a good amount of new mechanics, most of which hinge on having 3 different characters and your ability to switch characters on the fly. Fly characters can use an ability called Thunder Shoot, launching their teammates and enemies to stun them, and you can also use it to hit the occasional target. There are giant fans all over each level that the power characters can float up using various methods. Big has an umbrella, Vector blows a bubble with his gum, which I think is fun. Android 18 has jets because, of course, he's a robot. Knuckles can fly. We all know that. We don't know why, but let's not go asking questions we don't want the answers to, okay? And the speed characters can use their Psyloop/Tornado abilities to spin around these poles and activate these flying things with handles or whatever. There's also an entire leveling mechanic. Throughout the stage, you'll find these little colored orbs that level up their respective character up to 3 times. Arguably the most useful fully leveled characters are the fly characters, because at full power they can actually collect rings and kill enemies with the Thunder Shoot ability. The last mechanic that's unique to Sonic Heroes is the Team Blast. This little bar in the corner fills as you collect rings and destroy robots. Not this robot. He's a good robot. Sort of. I mean, he's not really good, but he's on your side. You know what I'm saying. Once it's full, you can press Z to perform a Team Blast, which takes you into this little cutscene and kills all the enemies on screen. And each team has one little thing that distinguishes their Team Blast from the others. Team Sonic gets a powered up homing attack, Team Dark uses Chaos Control, freezing all the enemies on screen. You know, the enemies that you just killed with the Team Blast. So that's pretty dope. Team Rose gets temporary invulnerability and a level up for each character, and Team Chaotix gains rings based on how many enemies they kill with the Team Blast. Overall, Sonic Heroes is pretty cool gameplay-wise. It certainly would have been nice if the characters had more distinctions, so it felt like a slightly different experience each time. But, I mean, you know, there are 12 playable characters and this is a Sonic game, so maybe I should count my blessings. It would also be pretty cool if there was a little more variety in the stages, as is each campaign has you going through the exact same levels in order. To be fair, there are slight variations in the levels. Team Chaotix usually has an objective in the level, like collecting a certain amount of items, and Team Rose's levels are different in that they're like half as long. So that's pretty cool. Girl power, am I right? Alright, fine. Repeating levels. What is this? Silent Hill 4? Yeah, alright, okay. You know, this is kind of rude, honestly. Like, you want me to make the joke, and then you all sit there and laugh at me sarcastically? Like, I'm a human being with feelings, alright? Once you've completed all 4 campaigns, Neo Metal Sonic uses the data he collected from all 4 teams to transform into Metal Madness, perhaps one of the most boring boss fights I have ever played. After that, he turns into his final form, Metal Overlord. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles harness the power of the Chaos Emeralds to fight this dude in the sky. And it's pretty cool. Nothing mind-blowing, but it's fun, I'll give him that. Alright, enough with the technical nonsense, okay? You know how this dance dances. Sonic and his less fast, but still fast, group of friends collect the Chaos Emeralds and defeat the evil that's eviler than Dr. Eggman. Such is life. So what's the verdict? Is Sonic Heroes good? Is it bad? Well, as is usually the case with Sonic games, the answer to both of those questions is yes. So let's get into it. Honestly, overall, I like this game. But do the pros outweigh the cons? Well, I don't fucking know. But it has Knuckles. And that's more than enough for me. In honor of Knuckles, let's get that negative out of the way first. Gotta send the folks home happy, right? For starters, this is a 3D Sonic game. So there is a lot of bullshit. You die in a lot of ways that don't feel fair. It's not as bad as some of the Blue Blur's 3D adventures, mostly because the bonus stages give you ample opportunity to pick up a ton of lives, but it's still infuriating. It's your classic stuff. Air dashes just decide not to home in on enemies for no reason, sending you to your death. eventually. The power character's default attack pushes you forward a few feet, which can send you off a cliff. The invulnerability doesn't work as well as it should. You know how it is. You'll quickly learn that in Sonic Heroes, depth perception is a privilege, not a right. It can be very difficult to determine where you're going to land. The fly characters make it a little easier since they can stay in the air for a bit, and Amy can also slowly flutter down. But this game will have you jump onto some pretty perilous platforms, sometimes ones that you can't even see that well. And that leads into another issue. The camera control is somehow garbage in this game. Sonic Heroes is clearly made in the same engine as Sonic Adventure 2. The graphics and models are very similar looking, the menus look the same, the sound effects are the same. And that's fine, no big deal, but the issue is that Sonic Adventure 2 requires you to use the triggers to move the camera because the Dreamcast controller only had one stick. This game, however, was designed to be played exclusively on consoles that had controllers with two sticks, and yet for some reason you still have to use the triggers to move the camera. Like, why? You're telling me that you made all these models fully new FMV cutscenes and got rid of Sonic's soap shoes, but you couldn't figure out how to program an analog stick? And speaking of the soap shoes, rail grinding. Just don't even get me fucking... Ooh, it boils my blood, man, let me tell you. Grinding on rails has become synonymous with Sonic ever since it was introduced in Sonic Adventure 2. And it's awesome, right? Doesn't this look sick? Look me in the eyes and tell me you don't want to do that in real life. The problem is that it's very cool in theory, not so much in execution. Somehow, despite rail grinding being one of the core mechanics of every 3D Sonic game, they've always struggled to implement it correctly. You're often made to land on these rail-thin rails, and once again, it can be very difficult to discern where you're going to land. You're also supposed to be able to quickly switch between tilting the stick and jumping, but it can be very easy to jump off the rail entirely, causing you to plummet to your death. Rail Canyon... Oh my god, this level can suck. It can suck my... pardon my French, but Rail Canyon can suck my... Oh, my bad. Sorry, I should have predicted that there wasn't a rail in the middle there. That's on me. Sorry, Sega. And look, these deaths wouldn't be that big of a deal if your only punishment was to go back to the last checkpoint, but the problem with Sonic Heroes is when you die, you lose all your progress you made in leveling your characters, meaning that you can't fly as long, enemies take more hits to kill. It's just annoying, man. There's also team battles throughout the game where you fight one of the other trios, and they are so poorly executed, there's no way to tell what the hell's going on. Sometimes you get lucky and the other team just jumps off a cliff. It's pretty funny, to be honest with you. Before we move on into Positivity Town, there's one more thing that I simply need to talk about. And I wouldn't consider it a point in the negative for this game, more as it's just fucking weird. And that's the voice acting. So there's a lot of characters in this game, right? Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, Rouge, the robot that sits on my desk, Amy, Cream, Big, Vector, Charmy, and last but least, Espio. Alright, sorry, I'll give Espio a break, okay? I don't hate him that much. I just hate him a lot. All I'm saying is that he's ugly and his personality is boring and one-dimensional. And he sucks. That's all I'm saying. Obviously, with that big a cast, there's going to be lots of talking. And that's fine. I wouldn't say that any of the voice actors are bad. Well, except for Tails, of course.
Eggman's robots are taking control of everything. It's not an Eggman robot. Sonic! Knuckles! Wait for me! Sonic, you sure this is the right way?
Jesus Christ. How did they manage to get an actor worse than Sonic Adventure 2? Like, I don't want to make fun of a kid or anything, but this kid sucks. Hire an adult. This isn't a fucking indie game, guys. It's Sonic the Hedgehog. But anyway, Tails aside, the voice acting is fine. It's more so about the things that the characters say that I find strange.
Worthless consumer model.
Just what do you think you're doing here?
Who's this broad?
Hey, that's disrespectful. It also has what I like to call SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom syndrome, where the characters are constantly talking while you're playing and getting caught off by other characters, or honestly more often themselves. My favorite example is Mr. Roboto. When he attacks, he says "Annihilation," but if you press the attack button again, which you pretty much do every time you fight, he cuts himself off mid-word. It's a shame that there isn't some way that you could have shortened that word, you know? Like if you could change it from a noun to a verb or something and it would fit perfectly. Oh well, what are you gonna do, right? Hey everyone, Ben coming in from the editing bay here. A couple more little voice acting things I wanted to mention but kind of forgot while I was writing. First, Big's voice. I find myself offended by it. I'm sure you can gather why.
Froggy, where are you? It's not nice to tease my friends.
Cream's voice is horrifically shrill, and I hate that she addresses everyone as Mr.
Amy, please be more careful with our only clue. Amy, are you sure Mr. Sonic is here? Hey, isn't that Mr. Sonic over there?
Not exactly sure why, but it makes me very uncomfortable. And finally, on the positive side, Vector is just... I love him so much.
SBO, don't be silly. Besides, you know our policy. We never turn down work that pays.
Why do you think we're here? How else are we gonna make the rent?
Excuse me, miss. I was wondering if I could ask you something.
But yeah, that's it. Sorry, back to your regularly scheduled. But enough ripping into this game for its numerous silly faults. What do you say that we take a little detour to Positivity Station? Honestly, I like Sonic Heroes. I think it's a really cool game in a lot of ways. For starters, the plot and presentation are a lot more digestible than its Dreamcast predecessors. Sonic as a series has a habit of taking itself way too seriously, something that has not gotten better over time.
I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist. Sonic is gone, Amy, and Tails has just lost it. If we're going to win, we have to do it without them.
Like, how do you expect me to take this seriously? Are you looking at the characters who are talking right now? Sonic Heroes' plot feels a lot less like a 90s science fiction action movie and more like, well, you know, a Sonic the Hedgehog game. One point of praise that this game got when it came out was its level design being a lot more akin to the classic 2D Sonic games on the Genesis, and I have to agree. Having less of an emphasis on the plot allows Sonic Heroes stages to be more fantastical and fun. Not only are the levels more visually appealing with bright colors and distinct environments, but the game also makes use of some pretty fun gimmicks like pinball, puzzles, bingo, enemy rushes, and so on. This game also does a really good job of making all three characters equally useful throughout the levels. It's not often that you stick to one character for the majority of the stage. In the span of a couple minutes, you'll be made to fly up to a high platform, stun some enemies with the Thunder Shoot, switch over to Knuckles to take care of the enemies, and then switch to Sonic for a speed segment. Each level also has secrets hidden around, and quite often you'll be presented with a choice of two paths, each designed for a different character, which gives you a little bit of control over how you experience the game. And of course, this is a Sonic game, so as usual, the music is fucking awesome. You got the fun first level vibe of Seaside Hill, the nonsensical electronica tune from Bingo Highway, the spooky, smooth rock of Mystic Mansion, hell, even the title screen music is poppy and fun. Like, they knew that 90% of the people playing this game were never going to get further than a few seconds on this song, but they went all in anyway. God bless Sonic Team. Overall, Sonic Heroes isn't perfect, but it's kind of an underrated classic in a lot of ways. I'd argue that it holds up better than a lot of 3D Sonic games, even the adventure titles in a lot of ways. If you want a fast-paced, unique Sonic game with memorable levels and a variety in gameplay, I'd give Sonic Heroes a go. I rather like it. Well, folks, mercifully, we've reached the end. Can you believe that I talked that much about Sonic Heroes? I could have been like doing important stuff. Like, if there's one big takeaway I can get from Sonic Heroes, it's that no matter what troubles you encounter in life, anything can be conquered through the power of friendship. Yeah!